This is Leo for Actualized.org, and in this video, what I want to talk about is the differences of doing personal development, doing it professionally, and doing it kind of as a layman personally. So what is this distinction? Well, the distinction is this. When I was starting off, it was really clear to me that when I was doing personal development, I had some doubts. So I went out and I bought one of those Tony Robbins CDs. And don't get me wrong, I love Tony Robbins. I don't want to bash him or anything or say anything bad. But one of the things that immediately came to mind for me, one of the objections was, well, sure, he can get the results because he's doing this professionally, whereas I'm the layman. I'm just going to buy one of these CDs and I'm going to read one of his books. And how can I expect to get the same kind of results as he's getting? Right? So that was kind of an objection that I had when I was starting this whole thing off, because I said, well, I'm not a professional personal development guy. I'm not out there running seminars, and I'm not out there coaching people, and I'm not out there teaching people, and I'm not getting paid for doing this stuff. Because I think there is a difference, and it's important to recognize that there is a difference between when a professional gets results and when a layman gets results. So this can apply in other areas besides personal development. For example, what kind of results does a professional athlete get versus someone who plays a sport just as a hobby or just for recreation? Different results, right? A professional tennis player is going to get totally different results than a weekend tennis player who plays tennis at the country club. Same thing goes for golf. You know, what is Tiger Woods able to get? What kind of results versus the kind of results you're able to get if you play golf once every 2 weeks, right? Kind of different. There's a different level of commitment there. There's a different level of drive. There's a different level of practice that is going into this. And I think the same applies with not only sports, but also applies with pretty much anything in life where you're a professional. That's one of the perks of being a professional, is that when you're choosing what you want to be a professional in, is that you can choose something that will also give you other payoffs besides just money, right? One of the nice things about being a professional athlete is that then you are athletic and you get nice body, you get nice energy, you get these kinds of things. One of the nice things about being a professional like actor is that you get to be out there talking to people. You get to be charismatic. You get to express your emotions. You get to be good at expressing emotions, and then that carries over into your personal life. And I think one of the benefits of being someone like Tony Robbins or myself who's entering into this field is that you get to study personal development, and that you get to get a professional level of result rather than a layman level of result. But I don't want that to discourage you, because the reason I got on this topic is that I was really thinking about, what can a layman expect to get from this stuff versus someone, a professional like myself, who does this for a living. And I think the difference is that, you have to understand that when someone like Tony Robbins is getting amazing results in his life, the reason he's getting those is because he's fully invested in this thing. And the scope of what he's doing is much larger than just taking a single book and reading it. And it's much larger than listening to someone's seminar. And don't get me wrong, he does those things. I do those things. But you have to go above and beyond. I think with personal development, though, there's a case to be made, more so than with other endeavors in life, like sports or business or anything else, is that it's almost a must for everybody. The question is, are you going to really commit yourself to it and decide that you're going to go all in and really undertake a lifelong mastery of personal development? Or are you just going to kind of dabble in it or do it unconsciously? Because you know what? Most of us are doing personal development on one level or another. The only difference here is right now, if you're watching these videos or if you're reading books, stuff like that, we're calling it out, right? We're bringing conscious attention to it, and we're putting words to the stuff that's happening anyways. Because if you take any person anywhere that doesn't even know what personal development is, has never heard of it, they're still undergoing growth, and they're still learning things about themselves. It's just that process, when it's made conscious, it can be a lot more effective, and it can be ruthlessly effective, and it can give you some amazing results. And when you're struggling through it on your own, and you've got nobody who's kind of helping you along or giving you advice, and you've got no one to bounce ideas off of, you don't have a book to read that will give you some helpful hints and tell you where you shouldn't go, the directions you shouldn't go, and tell you the good directions to go and gives you various techniques. When you don't have those things, then you're kind of figuring it out on your own. And that's almost like if I wanted to become an engineer, or if I wanted to master any other profession, right? If I wanted to become an engineer and I had to figure out everything from scratch without building or tapping into the vast amount of wisdom that has already been accumulated by humanity in the field of engineering over the last couple thousand years, then it's going to be a big uphill battle, right? It's going to be hard to create an engineer from scratch, so to speak, where if I don't study textbooks on physics and mechanics and mathematics and all this stuff and engineering ideas, then it's going to be very hard to develop yourself as quickly and as efficiently as you would if you go to school for that kind of thing, which is why school is so great. With personal development, though, here's the thing. It's different than other things, because I'm not going to sit here and make the case that you should become an engineer if engineering is not your thing, nor should you become a professional athlete if being a professional athlete is not your thing. And of course, I'm not going to say that you should be trying to be running seminars and coaching people. If that's not your thing, don't go that route, because there's a lot of specific training and practice that you have to develop in order to be an effective coach, in order to be an effective seminar leader, an effective writer, blogger, whatever. So that's not your goal for sure. But what I am encouraging you to do here is, I guess, to take a higher option with more commitment than what I see some people doing with personal development. Some people with personal development, what they do, most people, is they'll read a book once in a while, maybe they'll buy a CD course, and they'll try to fix one little problem here, one little problem there. And that's okay, that's better than not doing nothing. But what I think you need to really do if you're going to get into personal development, even if you don't do it professionally, is you still got to commit to learning what personal development is and learning the principles and really becoming a student, a lifelong student of this stuff. So what does that practically mean? And I kind of had an intuitive understanding that this is something that has to happen in order to get big results. Because when I got started, I knew that reading one book was not going to be enough. In fact, when I first picked up a Tony Robbins book, or it was actually Wallace Wattles' The Science of Getting Rich. When I first picked that up, that was my first self-help book, and that just kind of opened my eyes to some of the possibilities of improving my health and improving my business and improving my abundance and improving my finances. What I saw there was that this was not going to be fixed by one book, that I would have to really commit and that I would have to start studying this stuff. And at that point, I wasn't planning to do this professionally at all. I got into that idea many, many years later. But already when I first read that book, I already understood that, you know what, this is something that's going to take more initiative than I originally thought, and it's not going to be just a one book type of deal. This is going to be something like, I'm going to be reading a book a week, I'm going to be maybe reading a book a month, I'm going to be studying this stuff for the rest of my life. Because, well, these are life concepts that are going to be applicable forever, right? So you don't want to outsource something like knowing how to live life well, knowing how to get fulfillment out of life, knowing how to be successful. These are things that you really want to take into your own hands. There are certain things in life that you can outsource effectively, and other things that you don't want to outsource, because outsourcing them and trusting them to other people is going to create problems. I think personal development is one of these things. So that doesn't mean you have to become a professional in it, but that does mean that you have to have an understanding of it yourself. Kind of like with taxes. Here's an example that we can draw upon, right? You can easily outsource your tax account and accounting nowadays to either a CPA, or you can even get one of those Quicken programs, or TurboTax or TaxAct, one of those, and it'll do your taxes for you real quick. And that relieves you of the burden of having to go and learn all the tax code, which is changing all the time. It's complicated, it's boring, right? And so a lot of people will prefer to outsource their taxes. I mean, that's what I do. I don't know really much about taxes. I don't want to know much about taxes. For me, that's a burden. For me, learning that stuff is just a pain in the ass. It's changing all the time, and I have better things that I can be doing with my time and my energy. So I'm happy to pay $50 for TurboTax to do my taxes for me, and that's fine. That tends to work for me pretty well, and it probably does for you. With taxes, it's okay to do that because taxes are not that important. If you can get a program or an accountant to do them accurately for you, then you can forget about taxes and your life is not really going to be affected. And you don't need to sit there and learn the tax code. But personal development is different. It's in a different league because nobody can live your life for you. Nobody can make important life decisions for you. Nobody can do the self-evaluation that you need to do to get to really know who you are, so that the actions that you're taking in your life are really aligned with what you ultimately want, and they're going to lead to the fulfillment that you're going to get, right? And nobody can ultimately go out there and build your willpower muscles for you, build your prefrontal cortex. Nobody can eliminate the negative thinking and the petty chatter that's going on inside your mind that's preventing you from taking action, or it's creating self-sabotage in your life. Nobody can go out there and really motivate you, not on a consistent basis. Someone can come in there and kind of give you a boost, but nobody can give you a consistent level of motivation. So these sorts of things, these are what come with personal development, right? And that's why I think it's important to undertake this thing and to commit to it, because nobody can do these things for you. And you want to be able to be the master of your own life, and you want to be developing self-mastery, as I call it. So that's where I think something like personal development differs from learning the tax code, is that you have to kind of bite the bullet and say, you know what, this is something that I have to do anyways. And that if I don't do it, then I'm going to be going through, and I'm going to still be facing all these challenges. I'm still going to be facing all the decisions that I have to make in my life. I'm still going to be facing relationship issues, and I'm going to be facing issues at work with my career. I'm going to be facing issues with my business. I'm going to be facing issues with my finances. I'm going to be facing issues with my inner game, like, for example, getting demotivated, getting discouraged, losing focus, having negative beliefs and limiting beliefs and negative self-talk. So all of these things, really nobody else can fix for you but yourself. And sometimes it's really nice to be able to be your own guide, because you don't always have someone there guiding you. I'm here and I can provide you with cool principles and concepts and advice, but in the end, you want to be your own guru, so to speak, and you want to be able to coach yourself, and you want to be able to be resourceful and make strong decisions and handle all the things that I've just been talking about for yourself. And the way to do that is by undertaking this process of self-mastery and personal development. That means that you're going to be studying this stuff. That's why I'm creating a lot of videos, is because I'm trying to target an audience of people who are not just going to come to me for one bit of advice, but who want to do this on really as a lifelong journey for themselves. And what I think is really cool with personal development is that you can do that and still do other things. So you don't need to dedicate your whole life to this. This is just something that you do almost as a hobby, right? Just like you can have the hobby of playing a little bit of a sport on the side. You can have a hobby of playing a musical instrument, or doing this or doing that. These are things you do. They are not the core center of your life. But they still give you a lot of payoff. And I think that's really what you need to do with personal development, is make it a hobby of yours. For me, I started by making it a hobby, and it was a hobby of mine for a couple of years, and I was getting good results. And then for me, for my own personal reasons, it was something that I really enjoy doing, so I made the transition from hobby to career out of it and make a business out of it. But that's definitely not something that's right for everybody. That's not right for most people. So for you, though, I think making it a hobby is important. Don't make it a one-off thing. Just like almost you would do with your fitness and your nutrition. I think those are also things that you really need to take control of. You can't really outsource your nutrition, and you can't outsource your fitness. These are also things, and you can lump them in with personal development, but I tend to think that they can almost be separated out, because, for example, learning how to keep yourself fit, learning how to go to the gym and building a habit of it, and then knowing which exercises to do. And the same thing with your nutrition, really studying nutrition and knowing what foods are healthy for you and which are not, and the reasons behind all that. Those are things that I found to really get my nutrition into shape and to get my fitness into shape. I really had to go out there and learn those things. I couldn't just say that I'll go to the gym and then maybe have a personal trainer that will be the master of my fitness routine. I had to really get in there and read books. I had to go watch YouTube videos. I had to study. I had to experiment, talk to other people, see how they do stuff. And only then did I feel like I got a good sense of understanding about fitness, to the point where now I feel like I have a lot of control over my fitness, and which I think is really a nice thing. And I did that also with my nutrition as I started studying nutrition, not because I wanted to be a professional nutritionist or even because I loved nutrition. I didn't. It was just because I knew that to get my nutrition handled, to really know what's going on there, I had to study that stuff. And the way that it started was not that one day I said, oh, I'm going to become really an expert in nutrition. It kind of started to build slowly over years. So at first, I just wanted to get into shape and start eating, avoid like the worst foods. And then slowly, I got a little bit more and more interested in it. And the interest kind of built and built up and built up and built up until the point where I ended up doing a lot of research. And then I discovered I had some health problems that might be related to nutrition. So that got me into it a little bit more, doing even more in-depth research. And at this point, I feel like I've got quite a bit of knowledge about nutrition. In fact, I've randomly talked to nutritionists out and about as I'm walking around and doing stuff and socializing. Sometimes I run across nutritionists, and I'm kind of shocked. It kind of makes me chuckle to myself when they start talking to me about nutrition, and I can spot some of their bullshit, or I can spot inaccuracies in what they're saying, or I can actually converse with them and dispute with them. And they're supposed to be the professional nutritionists, and I'm supposedly just like a hobbyist. I'm just doing it for myself. And I sometimes feel like I know more than they do about some of these things. So the point there being is that that's a good example of what I want you to be doing with personal development, is I really want you to ask yourself, is it worth it for me to make this a hobby? And by hobby, I mean this is something that you're going to be doing consistently. Doesn't mean you do it every day, but it's something you do periodically and you do for the rest of your life. And I think what's great about personal development is that you can make it into a hobby and then it becomes really fascinating. It becomes fascinating to read all these books. It becomes fascinating to watch these videos and go to a seminar once in a while and to talk with people about best techniques and best strategies for creating an awesome life for yourself. And it's also good to spend some time thinking about it, right? Not just receiving and soaking in information from me or from a book, but actually spending your own time sitting there and digesting it. Maybe taking some notes. Maybe sitting there and contemplating about these different things. And maybe you have different opinions about how to do personal development than I do, or that some book might tell you to do. And sitting there and trying to figure this stuff out. I think there's a very strong case to be made that it's worth to make that investment. Both because it can be really fun and exciting, but also because this is something that pays huge dividends for you down the road. Because when you understand personal development, when you understand the principles of creating a successful, fulfilling life, well, I can almost make the case, what is more important? What is more important for you to be doing in your life than to be understanding how to live a happy life, a successful life, an exciting life? I mean, to me, that's what I love, and that's why I committed myself to personal development, both as a hobby and as a career, is because to me, that is one of the most important things in life, is to figure that stuff out. If you want to have a good life, then you probably want to start thinking about some of the principles that go into that and doing a little bit of studying. Studying there is really, really good. So, but let's go back to the original question that I had when we started this video, and that was about, can you get the kind of results that a professional would get? Can you get the kind of results that Tony Robbins would get? Or even the kind of results that maybe I'm able to get? And I think that you don't need to do that much personal development and to get those amazing kind of results. I think that even if you just do personal development as a hobby, you can still get really big payoffs. And that, of course, it's nice, the more time you are able to put into personal development, then obviously the more you're going to get out of it, just like with anything else in life. So are you going to realistically be able to get the kind of results that Tony Robbins has gotten? Probably not, because you know what Tony Robbins had to do to get those results? I mean, he read hundreds, maybe thousands of books. He went to dozens and dozens and maybe hundreds of seminars. He talked and interviewed people that were like the best in the world, like high performers, people that you could never even get access to, like really high-paid business executives and CEOs and world leaders like Nelson Mandela and world presidents and like high-paid actors. So these are people that you wouldn't even really be able to get access to as a layman. I can't get access to these people. So that's kind of like one of the perks that he has of being this big hotshot personal development guru, is that he is a celebrity and he gets access to celebrities. And it's always nice to be able to pick the brains of high performers because you can learn a lot just from that process. And so, I mean, those are just a few of the benefits that he has that you're really not going to be able to match in what you're doing. They're not even things that I'm able to match, and I'm still doing this stuff as a business and as a career. And of course, he has many other advantages over all of that. So you can't quite match that. So you're probably not going to get the kind of results that he's gotten. But then again, do you really need those kind of results? I mean, he's literally made like hundreds of millions of dollars. And his success is like phenomenal through the roof, maybe one of the most successful individuals alive today out there. So those kind of results are, of course, atypical, as they say, and you're probably not going to get them, although if you really want them, go for it. But that still doesn't mean that you shouldn't do personal development and that there's no benefit that you can get from doing it on a smaller scale, right? And I don't think you need to be doing it professionally to get those big results. I think actually the most important element of doing personal development is not to get caught up in the theorizing and the philosophizing that can happen. And especially when you start doing this stuff professionally, you really get involved with the theory a lot, and sometimes even to the point where it's detracting from your ability to go out there and take action. For example, there's actually some detriments to being in this thing professionally, because if you're doing this as a hobby, that means what you can do is you can go out there and you can see what the professionals have kind of distilled for you. You can grab those golden nuggets, and then if you want, you can really focus yourself and go out there and take a lot of action, execute, and put all the pieces together in your life, and you're going to start getting massive results, and it's going to be awesome. And you can do that relatively effectively. Whereas if you decided to make this a career of yours, one of the problems that you would run into is that all of a sudden you need to start bending over backwards and jumping through hoops, because as a career there's all these things that you have to do that are not necessarily at all related to your own personal development, right? For example, me standing here shooting this video, I had to spend hours and hours and hours to figure out how to do this, practice how to shoot these videos, buy the right equipment, spend a bunch of time figuring out how to deliver these messages, how to post it online, how to make everything look professional. And doing that didn't really improve my personal development so much. If I would have spent that time actually hammering out some of these principles that are, for example, in my blueprint, then I would have gotten better results. And actually, because I am doing personal development, I'm delivering a lot of this content. Obviously, I'm studying a lot of this content, so I'm reading tons of books, I'm interviewing people, I'm talking with clients, I'm analyzing my own results. And on one level, that's really great because it gives me a lot of awareness and it gives me a lot of knowledge. But on another level, it's also problematic because sometimes, again, just doing those things doesn't mean that I end up mastering myself. Really, what I'm practicing when I'm doing that stuff is I'm practicing my profession, and that's very different than actually mastering myself. So even though someone can go out there and deliver a great seminar, or someone can go out there and deliver a great speech about personal development and can tell you exactly what you got to do, that doesn't mean that they're able to do it themselves. In fact, it's very easy for me to go out there and say, okay, look, here are the top 10 things that you need to do in your life to create an awesome life for yourself, or to become super rich, or to have an awesome relationship, or to have an awesome family life, or here are the 10 things you need to do to run an awesome business. And just because I tell you those things does not mean that I have those things in my life. And that does not mean that I'm feeling those things, I'm getting and I'm reaping the benefits of them. Those are two different things. And it actually took me getting into personal development professionally just over the last year is when I started to realize this, because initially I thought that there was more overlap between those two things than there actually are. Just because I become a really good blogger, or I become a really good writer, or I become a really good speaker, or I become a really good coach, does not at all mean that I myself have my own life handled. I can easily have crappy relationships, I can easily have horrible nutrition, I could easily not be going to the gym, I could easily be lazy and be slacking off. I could easily have a bunch of negative thoughts going through my mind all the time. I could be frazzled, I could be overstressed, I could have a horrible work-life balance. I could have all these things and still deliver an awesome video to you. In fact, a lot of times that can kind of be a tendency is to actually fall into that, right? And that's where you get kind of this hypocrisy effect that sometimes you will see. For example, you have a preacher on TV, like a televangelist, and he'll be telling you that you're sinning and that you're doing this wrong and that wrong and you're breaking commandments and that you need to repent. And then that preacher, that televangelist gets caught doing exactly what he was preaching you not to do. So that's the kind of hypocrisy effect that you get. And the reason you get that is because it's actually pretty easy to go out there and preach. It's not hard. I mean, if you wanted to right now, you can go into a book and read 10 principles or 10 things that are important to be doing, and then you could read 10 things that are that you should never do, and then you can go out there and you can preach to someone. You can preach to your kids, you can preach to your friends, you can preach online, you can gather a bunch of people together and charge them and create a seminar and teach them this stuff. But then you wouldn't be living it yourself. And it would be very easy to actually do that. And people would still listen to you because it's hard for people to see whether you're doing it personally. It's hard for people to see whether you're feeling the effects of the development. So for me, when I got into this, I kind of realized that this was a problem. And one of the things that I committed to when I started is that I really have to walk the talk. And that if I'm out there researching these principles, I need to really be careful about not just getting into that preacher mode where I'm telling people what to do and not doing it myself. Because I didn't really care about the hypocrisy of it. What I really cared about is for my own health. Because I think I'd really be devastated if I was preaching all this stuff and I was teaching people how to get their lives in order, and then my life 10, 20 years from now ended up being in shambles, and I couldn't manage a relationship, or I had finance problems, or I had health problems related to my nutrition and my exercise. So all those things, I feel like, the reason I got into personal development was to really improve myself and to get my life to the point where I'm excited and really engaged and fulfilled and I'm living a big life. And then from there, I kind of thought, well, it would be really nice to help people do the same because I feel like I have a talent for it. But I always need to keep my mind both on the fact that I'm doing this as a profession and I'm also doing this personally for me. So for me, there's actually my energy, my attention is kind of split. And I think that's what has to happen if you undertake personal development professionally. But that's almost kind of a downside, right? That's one of the downsides of doing it professionally. So the nice perk for you doing this as a hobbyist is that you don't need to worry about that. And that you don't need to worry about that hypocrisy effect. And you don't need to worry about putting your energy towards writing articles and shooting videos and learning all this stuff and then learning how to communicate it, which is a really big factor. Not only do you have to learn it, you have to learn how to communicate it, which has nothing to do with really applying it in your life. It's just about the mechanics of communication, and that can take a lot of time and a lot of effort. So you don't need to waste your resources on that if that's not your thing, and you can just focus on improving your life, right? If you're already running a successful business in some other industry, that's great. Keep running that business and just take the principles and the ideas that I'm talking about here and look for ways to go out and directly implement them. You can study some of these principles, and if you're curious about them, go ahead and study some of these topics. If you're curious about visualization, you hear me talking about it, maybe go out there and pick up a book and study visualization. Or if you're curious about life purpose and you want to know more about how life purpose works so that you can get a little bit, squeeze a little bit more out of that concept for yourself, that's a good concept to study, and I can show you some books that you can read, or maybe give you some programs that you can look into to help you out with that. But really what I want you to do is I want you to take the golden nuggets and then go and apply it so that your life is made better by these concepts. Don't just study visualization, go out there and visualize the things that you want. Use it to get you the results that you want. Don't just study life purpose, go out there and create an awesome life purpose for yourself. Improve your life purpose with these principles and ideas that I'm showing you. And that's what I want you to be doing across all levels. And that kind of wraps up my thoughts on the difference between doing personal development professionally and as a hobby. Ultimately, I think the thought that I want to leave you with is, do you want to pursue this as a hobby, or do you want to not pursue it at all? Because the thing is, if you don't undertake this as a hobby, then I can promise you that you're going to struggle a lot, and you're going to reach points in your life where you really wish that you did. So I want to encourage you to think about that, ask yourself that question, think about it, and if you do want to take it on as a hobby, I think that's awesome. That's why I have a lot of these free resources out here for you, is because I want to get you to buy into this idea that it's a cool hobby. And if you want to take it further, you can, and just see where it goes, run with it, see how it improves your life. Take it on as a hobby, try it on for a year, and see what kind of results you get. And if you like it, continue forward, and you're going to build curiosity. It's going to become fun for you, and I'm here to get you motivated about it. I'm here to share the greatest ideas that I know, and I really want to get you excited about this, because if you're a hobbyist, then I'm here to serve you. All right, so this is it for me. I'm signing off. Go ahead, post your comments. I love hearing from you. Let me know what you think about this topic. And if you would, share it with your friends, share it with people that you think would benefit from this material. All right, this is Leo signing off.